What if I told you that most of your big decisions aren't really yours? So today, we're going to dive into the work of Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman to uncover the hidden glitches and mental shortcuts that are secretly running the show in our minds every single day.
It seems like a simple question, right? But the answer? Well, it's way more complicated than you'd think. And for Kahneman, this whole journey didn't start in some fancy lab. It started on a street corner during World War II.
So, picture this. Kahneman is just a young Jewish boy in German-occupied France. He's out past curfew, and a German soldier spots him. He was, absolutely terrified. But instead of arresting him, the soldier, he smiles, pulls out his wallet to show him a picture of his own son, and then gives him some money. That one act of kindness just shattered all the stereotypes, and it sparked a lifelong obsession for Kahneman, understanding the deep, often irrational currents of the human mind.
And that obsession, it led him to this incredible discovery. Our brain isn't one single rational thing. Nope. It's more like there are two very different characters in the cockpit of our mind, both trying to fly the plane.
So let's meet them. You've got System 1 and System 2. System 1 is your gut reaction, your autopilot. It's lightning fast, totally automatic, and always on. It's the thing that lets you know 2 plus 2 is 4 or helps you duck when a ball flies at your head. Then there's System 2. That's the conscious pilot. It's slow, careful, and analytical. It's what you use to solve a tough math problem. But it has one huge flaw. It is lazy, like really lazy. It would much rather just let the autopilot handle things.
Let's test this out right now. Super simple question for you. What is 3 plus 8?
See? The answer? 11. It just appeared in your head, didn't it? No real effort, no strain. That was your autopilot System 1 just handing you the answer on a silver platter.
Okay, pretty easy. Now, let's try another one. What is 28 times 13?
Did you feel that? That mental speed bump? The moment you had to stop and actually think? Maybe your brow furrowed a little bit? That is the feeling of your lazy pilot, System 2, getting dragged out of bed to do some real hard work. And our brains are wired to avoid that feeling at all costs.
And that's the whole problem. Because our pilot, System 2, is so lazy, we let the autopilot, System 1, fly the plane almost all the time. But to stay fast, System 1 relies on these mental shortcuts. Think of them as simple rules of thumb. And while they're usually helpful, they often lead to the same predictable mistakes, what scientists call cognitive biases.
So let's dig into one of the biggest, most powerful ones, the anchoring effect. This is our brain's weird tendency to get latched onto the very first piece of information it sees, even if that information is totally random and useless.
Check out this wild experiment. Researchers spun a roulette wheel in front of some students. Now the wheel was rigged to land on either 10 or 65. Then they asked everyone a completely unrelated question. What percentage of nations in the UN are from Africa? The students who saw the number 10, their average guess was around 25%. And the ones who saw 65? Bam! Their guess jumped all the way to 45%. That totally random number from the wheel became an anchor that dragged their answers along with it.
And believe me, this isn't some weird thing that only happens in a lab. It's used on you all the time. Ever been in a supermarket and seen a sign like this? That limit isn't really there to stop you from buying too much. It's there to be an anchor.
And the result? It was absolutely dramatic. Before the sign went up, shoppers were buying, on average, maybe 3 cans. But after that anchor of 12 was planted in their heads, the average purchase shot up to 7 cans. The anchor didn't limit people, it actually made them buy more than double.
So, okay, our brain's shortcuts mess with how we shop, but they also totally distort how we judge success and failure. We have this deep, deep need to see cause and effect everywhere, even when it's just pure statistics.
Kahneman was giving a talk to Israeli Air Force instructors when one of them stands up and says this. And it sounds like it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? You praise someone, they get complacent. You yell at them, they shape up. But here's the thing. It's totally, completely wrong.
What that officer was actually seeing wasn't the result of his feedback at all. He was witnessing a stone-cold statistical fact called regression to the mean. All it means is that an extreme result is likely to be followed by a more average one. A pilot who has an unusually amazing landing is, just by chance, probably going to have a more normal one next time. And a pilot with a terrible landing will probably do better. The praise and the scolding had nothing to do with it.
And this is where these mental glitches stop being just interesting quirks and start becoming really high stakes, especially when there's real money
or even people's lives on the line. Which brings us to Kahneman's Nobel-winning idea, prospect theory.
All right, let me make you an offer. A simple bet. We'll flip a coin. Heads, I give you $150. Tails, you give me 100. Now logically, mathematically, you should take this deal every single time. The upside is 50% bigger than the downside. And yet, the vast majority of people say no. Why? Why would we turn down a bet that is literally stacked in our favor?
The answer has a name, loss aversion. And it boils down to this really simple, powerful truth. For our brains, losing hurts way, way more than winning feels good. In fact, psychologists have found that the pain of a loss is about twice as powerful as the pleasure of an equivalent gain.
And this fear of losing makes us, well, it makes us completely inconsistent. Let's take a look. Imagine I give you this choice, and we frame it in terms of gains. Plan A saves 200 people for sure. Plan B is a gamble. The certainty of saving 200 lives feels really good, so most of us choose Plan A. When we focus on gains, we become risk-averse. We play it safe.
But now, watch what happens when we frame the exact same problem in terms of losses. Now, Plan A means 400 people are going to die, for sure. That feels awful. So suddenly, the gamble in Plan B looks pretty good because it offers a chance to avoid that certain loss. When we're faced with a sure loss, we suddenly become risk-seeking. The outcomes are identical. The only thing that changed was the wording, the frame, but it completely flipped our decision.
Okay, so the verdict is in, we're all irrational. Our brains are riddled with these flaws. So what in the world are we supposed to do about it? I mean, we can't just flip a switch and turn off our autopilot. But, and this is a big but, we can develop a kind of superpower. The superpower of awareness. And I want to leave you with a really powerful practical tool you can use for this. It's called a pre-mortem. Here's how it works. Before you launch a big project, you get your team together and you say this. Okay, everyone, let's imagine it's a year from now. This project was a complete spectacular failure. Now take 5 minutes and write down every single reason you can think of for why it failed. This simple little trick forces you to bypass your natural overconfidence and lets you see all the threats you would have otherwise just ignored. So as we wrap up, I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. Think about that big plan you have, that career change, that investment, that decision you feel so certain about. What hidden flaws might you find if you just gave yourself permission to imagine its total epic failure? In other words, which of your certain plans really deserves a pre-mortem?